Are you wondering how to leverage the power of email marketing but struggling to find the tactics to get more traction? Join me on this episode as we uncover how to harness the power of strategic direct response email marketing. I'm Devin Hers. Welcome to the DMC Marketing Nugget. All right, my guest today is a dynamic entrepreneur and email master, the co-founder and CEO of the email agency. Welcome, Josh Kropkof. Great to have you here, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, you live not too far away from me over in Tampa area, and we connected. And email is definitely an interesting subject this day and age with everything going on in technology, social media, AI. So we're going to cover a lot of nuggets today for our audience. I'd love to learn more about you. How did you get started in this realm of business and especially email marketing?
So that is a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I kind of fell into it backwards, if you will. I guess we go back like 8 years ago or so. I was in law school actually at the University of Miami. I was in my like first to second year of law school, and I didn't really want to be a lawyer. I was kind of there because I was still trying to figure out, I guess, what direction to go with my career. And at the time, I happened to be on an email list, email newsletter that I was signed up for. At the time, it was called Dating Advice Daily. So it was it's just like it sounds, right? It was mostly geared for like college age men who, are just looking for, tips on approaching girls and getting dates and all kinds of stuff like that. And I had signed up for it when I was in college. And I was still on it. And at the time, the guy who ran that email newsletter, his name was Jason Capital. He sort of pivoted to revealing some of the things that he had done over the past few years at that time to grow his email list and to become a millionaire at the age of 24. Through selling his different date. He had like a book on dating. He had like a course and different things like that. And so he started telling stories that were really, really fascinating to me that I had never heard before. And one of them was, I'd never heard anything like it before. And one of them was that he had gone to Vegas for a weekend and he just decided he wanted to try an experiment, which was to see if he could make more money from his email list than he would spend in Las Vegas. And so right before he left, he like quickly put together a 10 video course and charged, I think, like $47 for it, sent an email out to his list on Friday, went to Vegas, spent as much money as he could in Vegas over the weekend and ended up spending, I think he said like 15, 16 grand over like Saturday and Sunday. Came back Monday, goes into his email, goes into his like software, I think it was ClickFunnels or whatever. And he sees that the email he sent on Friday had made him over $50,000. And
Wow.
so then he tells that story to his email list, and I'm like sitting there, I'm in the cafeteria at my law school, and I'm reading this, and I just remember having this moment of like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? Like, I'm in class with people who are like super stoked about the fact that if they get hired by a big law firm, they might make like 160K a year, and they're going to have to work like 60, 70-hour weeks for, 7 or 8 years to try to make partner and all this stuff. And I already knew like that wasn't very appealing to me. And once I read that email, I was like, why would I ever pursue any career like this? Like, I want to get in on what this guy's doing. I want to learn at first I didn't really believe it. Right. But time goes on. So fast forward a little bit. This same guy decides to hold a conference in Las Vegas where he's going to. We didn't really know exactly what it was going to be, but we knew that there was going to be some reveal of this type of stuff, and it was called the Badass Mentor Retreat, which was just kind of a cool name. So my brother at the time was a student at FSU, Florida State University. He was like his junior year or whatever, or sophomore year, something like that. So this was over winter break, and I was like, why don't we go? So we both of us go out there to Vegas, and it was a 2-day event where it wasn't just this guy, Jason Capital, but all of these basically internet millionaires. So like Bedros Keuilian was there. If you've ever heard of him, he's the founder of Fit Body
Mhm.
Boot Camp. John Romanello was there. Tons of people who and it was men and women, different ages, different backgrounds. All of them had this one thing in common, which was they had become millionaires through an online business. And every one of them was talking about the power of their email list, of having this email list where they send, regular emails out. And that's how they generate most of their income. So basically, I'll fast forward through the rest of this part, but what happened was we after school, my brother and I started this business trying to sell digital products like a lot of those guys had been doing, and that didn't really work so well for us. We didn't really have a solid plan, and it was kind of like our first stab at online business, and we didn't really know too much about what we were doing. We kind of failed at that for over a year. But what happened was during this time, we learned the skill of email marketing. We learned direct response copywriting. And so when that didn't work, we sort of shifted into providing this service of email marketing for businesses. And that did work. And there was at the same time this sort of gap in the marketplace we noticed where all kinds of physical product businesses, e-commerce businesses were emailing a lot, but they were doing it very different than the type of emails that we were used to seeing and practicing and doing for our list and getting from different people, which were more like direct response emails. So we wanted to sort of close that gap between sort of like the very branded corporate style email that you see a lot of, even to this day, a lot of e-commerce businesses use. And the other side, which is more like storytelling, more long form direct response emails. And what we ended up creating was something that's very much in between. It's, kind of a combination of branded, design heavy with very effective short form direct response copy that's more personality driven and gets much better results than like a typical email you might see from Best Buy or something that's just like showing off products and has buttons that says like shop now or whatever.
Right.
So I know that was a very long-winded answer, but I wanted to kind of give you a feel for like how we sort of fell into this business, and it's been quite a journey over the last 6 years to really build a sustainable agency off of this. But
Sure.
yeah, hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll dig into that. And my background too is in direct mail, so more the tangible side of email,
Mm,
right? Very similar when it comes to direct
mhm,
response copy, how people are going to react to that. And I would say today, even for the last handful of years, I'm sure you get pushback. I know I get pushback about direct mail, and oh, direct mail doesn't work. Well, there's
mhm.
many variables to direct mail. So yes, direct mail can work wonders if you do it correctly. I'm assuming that's the same thing in your world with email marketing. That there's email doesn't work anymore. You got to go social. You got to go this, pay Google, pay Facebook, all these different things that are out there to us now. So what is it that business owners are really getting wrong about email marketing?
So I would say that in the world that I dabble in, which is the world that I'm in every day, which is e-commerce businesses, there isn't so much that type of attitude as maybe there was, I guess, when I was first getting started, maybe like 6 years ago. You'd run into people who kind of like feel like email doesn't work. I think in my industry, we're at the point now where most business owners that own e-commerce businesses do understand how important email marketing is. There's pushback on other things for sure. With that, I will say that more generally speaking, because I talk to a lot of business owners, and I have an agency, and I know a lot of business owners who own B2B or service-based companies, agencies, consulting firms, law firms, things like that. And I think there is definitely a little bit less awareness of how important and powerful email marketing is. So, like, I would say that people, the one thing I can say across the board is people feel like their inbox is crowded, and they feel like they don't like email marketing. They don't like getting email. They do feel like it's outdated, and they feel like it's too much, right? And so there's definitely this sort of I think misconception about like sending too much email. Like, I guess that's the way I would put it,
Right.
sending too much email and what
Okay.
that means. So I can definitely say more about that if that would be
Okay.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, like,
absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, the frequency, right? I mean, people are concerned I'm
yeah,
bothering people. I mean, personally, I feel that same way. We're bothering people, but then I know I sign up for stuff and I'm getting 20 emails in a week, and it's keeping me
yeah,
engaged, and it's keeping me moving forward. So, yeah, we'll definitely dig into that further as well.
for sure. Yeah, I think that one thing that you should remember, no matter what kind of business that you have with email marketing, is that it is a practice of showing up. And so the way that I would advise thinking about it, and I think this is a mistake, is people kind of they think about it the wrong way. So, like, if you're thinking about it as a marketing channel, right, and you think like we have email is a marketing channel. My social media accounts is a marketing channel. Google SEO is a marketing channel. Paid ads, all these different marketing channels, and email is one of those. That is
Okay.
not accurate. So that's the thing that I would sort of make this shift. So while those things are all marketing channels, the other things I mentioned, email is more of a relationship channel. So the way
Okay.
that is helpful to think about email, the most helpful way to think about it is it's like a radio show. Like a talk radio broadcast. So, like, if you've ever listened to talk radio, usually it is and it doesn't matter what genre. It could be sports, it can be political, it could be comedy, whatever it is. But typically, that show is going to be on every day, or at least like every weekday, or maybe 3 times a week, whatever it is. It's going to be on the same time. Um, and you're not going to tune in every time, right? You'll tune in when you can. Maybe you're a diehard fan of a show, you do tune in every single day, probably not for the full 3 hours or whatever it is, but you
Right.
catch them from like 1 to 2 during your lunch break or whatever. But they're there, right? And so
Right.
that is very much how email marketing works and should work. Is it's kind of like a show that it's there all the time. You don't expect people are going to read every single email, just like a radio host knows that people are coming in and out of the audience. They're not sitting there the whole time every time. But if I want to go back and read an email you sent yesterday, I can click into it and I can catch up, right? It's also really similar to like if you have a YouTuber that you follow. I'm
Okay.
big into a few different YouTubers. Like I like cooking channels on YouTube. I also like the storm chasers who chase tornadoes and things like that.
Yeah.
And I by no means have the time to tune in every time that they post a video, but when I binge watch it or whatever, I'll go back, I'll see several of them. So the point I'm trying to get across is like, don't worry about that you're bothering people by sending too many emails. It's more important to show up, right? Like, you don't worry
Okay.
about if you're posting a video on YouTube. I don't want to
Right.
bother people with too many YouTube videos, right?
True.
um, and also, very much like the radio show piece, it is meant to be sort of an ongoing conversation. So it is, that very much goes to the style of email, but it's like what we don't want to do is continuously slam people day after day after day with the exact same thing, meaning it's always a sale, it's always a promotion of a certain
Right.
product or service. It always looks the same, it sounds the same. Maybe, maybe it's a different deal today, but the email is the same. There's no entertainment, there's no like interesting stuff in there. There's no reason for me to keep looking
To
at the
watch it.
emails because they're all the same. But if you think of it more like a broadcast, then what we're doing is we're having an ongoing conversation. There's a lot happening. Sometimes there's some really cool content or some entertaining value in there. Other times it is a sale or a promotion. Other times it's something really short and we're just asking a question and getting feedback from our audience, right? And then talking about what they said. So this kind of variety keeps it interesting. It keeps people engaged. And that's what I think when people kind of recoil at the idea of email and email frequency and all, it's what needs to change is sort of the mindset of how we think about this channel,
Yeah.
and how we do it, right? And so that's our job as marketers, by the way. Any marketers listening, like our job is to do a good job with email to sort of change that perception,
Right.
that unfortunate public perception right now, because I think it's gotten a bad rap in some ways.
Yeah, I think the awesome nugget right there off the bat, because it is a mindset shift of how you're communicating with people. And if you do look at it as a broadcast, what I love about this, and I know I mentioned this in many shows in the past, is that even as a marketer, we don't know it all. And just hearing those little things and the reminders of, hey, this is not always a sale. It's not always having to be about your product or service. It's giving education, having some fun, talking about the Tom Brady roast, talking about what happened last weekend, things that are topical. That's
Right.
really where you create those connections. So love that. I think that's going to open up a lot of people's minds when it comes to how they're communicating with email these days. And I know you've had some awesome success, a lot of that in the e-commerce realm and some B2B. But some of the companies that you've actually been working with have seen a 700% increase in their email revenue. So I'd love to hear a little bit of that with the e-commerce side, and then also any other success stories that you have that maybe more B2B.
Yeah, so I think what we do is a bit different sometimes than what e-commerce business owners are used to. So a lot of times when a business owner comes to me and they are curious about what we offer, they want help with their email marketing. A lot of times there's one of two things happening. Either one, it's being neglected in their business, meaning that they don't have the resources or the bandwidth. They're not sending a lot of email, and the email that they are sending is maybe it's not performing very well. A lot of times it's not even delivering well. It's going to spam. The other scenario is they have an agency that's doing their email. It's been doing their email for a while. A lot of times it's not like an email focused agency, but it might be more of a full stack marketing agency, and that agency is not doing a great job. So what we do is when we take over a new email, we take over a list or an email program from a new client, new company. We are a lot of times going back to basics to start off. So we're really getting more clear on the pain points that their customers have, the benefits of their product or service,
Mm-hmm.
their USP, their unique mechanism. And a lot of these things we tend to find have not really been flushed out, sometimes
Yeah.
even internally within the company. Sometimes their agency hasn't done a great job or whatever it is. And so
Mm-hmm.
we typically do a full revamp of their email program that includes a lot of usually an update to the look of the emails and the design, but also just trying different things with respect to what we're saying in the emails, how we're describing the product, putting a personality behind it so that the emails aren't just like coming from the brand all the time, but sometimes they're coming from the founder. And so what we see is we do get a lot more engagement usually right off the bat. They're usually shocked at getting their, we ask them to create a dedicated replies inbox because it's going to get really crowded and slammed with replies. And then they're usually
Okay.
shocked with how thorough people are in their responses and how enthusiastic people are when they can actually reply to your emails. So yes, all of this typically leads to some pretty big increases in email revenue right off the bat. We had a brand pretty recently, I guess, joined us. I think it was like October this past year, and
Okay.
then fast forward within a couple months, it was up over 700%. The previous year over year is what we usually like to look at, because there's
Sure.
fluctuations throughout the year. Obviously, Q4 for a lot of brands is really big, so don't like to always
Right.
look at like what was that compared to the month before, but really the year before. And we've had brands who weren't even like really doing much at all, and then we came in and kind of did the whole thing for them, and then of course their email revenue is up thousands of percentage points. But I think what's cool is, maybe even more to the point, we just did a deep dive into some of our data from 2023 so that we can put it on our website. And one of the metrics that really surprised me a little bit, but I was, of course, pretty happy about it, was that our clients saw on average 62% increase in total revenue. So not just email
Wow.
revenue, but total store revenue. And that was on average. And I think every single client, there was one that didn't see an increase in an overall revenue. That one had an issue with their main paid traffic channel the same time
Okay.
period. But putting them aside, though, everyone else saw these huge increases. We had one that was like up over 300% total revenue year over year, and this is looking across a full year. So that is because email can really drive business growth if it's used the right way. And this is something that like we advise our clients on, like because email is the traffic that you own. So like you are paying X amount of dollars to acquire a customer on the front end. What we should be able to do is multiply that through the back end, through the email channel, increase the average order value, increase the order frequency, even increasing that conversion rate on the first step. And so
Yeah.
when you get more revenue from the channel, though, you should immediately put that back into front end advertising. In most cases, I'm speaking pretty generally because there are some cases where this doesn't apply, but for
Sure.
most businesses, when we increase your email revenue, that extra profit should go back into the front end advertising to grow the list more, grow the influx of new prospects, and then it sort of cascades. It sort of builds on itself. And so now we're increasing revenue on the back end, you're increasing revenue on the front end. That's how we end up with that overall total revenue increase. And so that's something that
Okay.
we are, pretty big on. Like when we do take on new clients, we make sure that it's a situation where they don't look at us as just an appendage of their business, where it's like, hey, you guys do the job, be our email team, we don't want to talk to you, just do the
Right.
job, get it done. We prefer a more hands-on relationship where we are
Sure.
working together to grow this company. That's what it's about. So, and it's, that's how
Very
we've
cool.
always been. We're a small team and everything. And we keep our clientele pretty small. We have less than 10 done for you clients right now. We usually take about a dozen throughout the year. But that allows us to be able to get some really great results.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I think that more hands-on, personal approach is sometimes missing this day and age. And as an agency owner, that's what we enjoy: the interaction, the collaboration. They know their business better than we do. We have the marketing approach, the know-how, all the data that we get from all of our other campaigns. You combine that together with some people that have open minds, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
things work out really, really well. I want to get back to that too, because I do have some questions on like
Sure.
reactivating a list and things like that. But let's hit on something that's hot right now. We got this thing, artificial intelligence. We're all dealing
Mm-hmm.
with it. Some people are scared shitless of it. I love parts of it. I'm definitely recommending using it for people to get some tasks done to help keep things running smoother. Some of the things that used to have to sub out, you can now take in and get organized better. So I'd love to hear your take on AI, how that's impacting the world of email marketing today.
Sure. I guess the thing is, like, I wish it were better. So like, uh, it's really not there yet. I mean, I've because at this point it's been year and a half or 2 years now that we've been hearing about it and like trying to use it more in the business, and I can say like at this point I'm still disappointed in like AI capabilities, and that is to say that like what I wish it would do would be to make our jobs easier when it comes to things like coding email design and getting like
Sure.
really good responsive code that like displays great across all platforms without us having to use other tools to like
Yes.
fix that kind of thing. And it's funny because it's timely because ChatGPT just came out with an update that can manipulate code. And my brother, my co-founder, he spent all day yesterday actually working with this to try to get it to do certain things in terms of our email design. And so
Right.
far, it's not there. So
Not that.
that's one thing. I mean, there is some stuff that's been added, like all of our tools, everything we use has within the last year introduced new AI features, right? And so like
Yep.
there's some good things, like there's a in Klaviyo, which is the main like email platform that we
Hmm.
use for our clients. There's an AI like segment builder now that helps generate segments based on AI. It's okay. It's
Okay.
not. I kind of just wish it was better. I think that the one thing that has been good with ChatGPT has been idea generation. So like
Yes.
one of our client accounts is they sell planters, like commercial planters for like big fiberglass planters that you would put plants in. You see them at like
Okay.
restaurants or hotels. And
Right.
and a lot of that list is B2B, although there is a good portion that's D2C. And we've been working with this client for more than 2 years now, and we're sort of ramping up the email volume, and we find that there's like certain types of content that the list responds really well to. But it does get challenging when you've sent so many emails to a list to continually come up with new ideas and new things that are going to hit differently. And so that's where AI has been useful, is like coming up with new, fresh ideas.
Sure.
And coming up with things that maybe we didn't necessarily think of, or at least angles that we can take. What it's not good at is writing email copy. It's not really good at things like that. I saw a post just today on Facebook from a friend in the online marketing world, and the post was something like getting really sick of having to sit and correct Chat GPT 5 times and still not get anything that I can really use. So I think it's AI is not. I don't want to say it's overblown or overhyped, because I think that we're in an
Right.
emerging field that's very new, but I just
Hmm.
think it's so new that it's just not there yet. And I think people tend to,
Right.
um, kind of like portray it as doing more than it really can. And I think it's been, from that standpoint, just a little disappointing. Have you had a similar experience, or have you
Yeah.
figured out ways to use it more like productively?
I yeah, I definitely have similar experience. I do feel it's also what data you're putting in too, and how you're
Yeah.
using it. I mean, if you're asking just for general direct response copy, a lot of the things that I learned back working with Dan Kennedy and unleash the secrets, reveal this, unlock,
Hmm.
all those words that we were using as direct response marketers. Now GPT is doing it, and now it's
Hmm.
overused. So that's driving me
Yeah.
nuts. Is like, okay, well now we can't even use those words. You start to pick up, especially if you're working with AI a lot. You can easily pick up when people are using it. Where I
Hmm.
find it to be very helpful is even just with the proposals, mapping out plans, and usually that takes this to input
Hmm.
the information that you're wanting and really spelling
Right.
it out the way that I want it. and then they'll just kind of use that to improve upon it a little bit, smooth it out, make it formatted in a nicer little proposal format or a more of a schedule based format. So those types of things, that being a designer at heart, I may not be the best at structuring the proposal or a social media marketing plan, but I know what I want it to do. So I'm taking that information, inputting that the best that I can. And some of my inputs are paragraphs long. It's not just, hey, write me a plan. It's putting in all those details. So that's where I'm seeing it really help. Throwing around some ideas. Hey, give me a different idea other than this headline. What's
Hmm.
some other options instead of this word? So almost like a thesaurus, right?
Right.
Just to
Right.
spike some creativity. So that's where I'm seeing it work. But if you get too lazy and you're just relying on AI, all this shit's going to look the same. You're going to sound like everyone else, and you need to
Yeah.
combat that now. So that's a whole different world.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think it's if anyone out there is worried about it, I think right now, if you can harness it, understand it, some of the power, don't get too lazy by just accepting everything that it just provides you. Spend some time with what it gives you as far as the output goes. And I think it can help you. It can save you lots of time too, on the things that may not be the most important part of your daily life and daily work life. So I think overall,
Yeah.
like you're saying, is we can't just rely on it. It doesn't do the things that we totally want it to do right now, but I think that's okay too because they still need us. So um,
Yeah.
now, personally, this one's a little bit more selfish, and it may be very similar to a lot of people out there that are listening, where they have a lot of contacts in their email database. Even just over the last 6 months, we've run some very successful campaigns for lead generation, generated over
Mhm.
1,000 plus leads, interested in some of our solutions. We've had some conversions, but they're not the amount that we should have. And this
Mhm.
is kind of where I get stuck is, do we don't want to be out there pushing specials, doing giveaways, freebies. We want to add value wherever we can add value.
Mhm.
But what style of email drips are you feeling that are the most advantageous to potentially activate a client that hasn't yet? Is it still more of that broadcast mentality of, hey, let's just keep giving some information, timely things, and if they like what we're saying, they're going to look at us more and then take those next steps? What is it that you feel is the best approach when it comes to a list that, yeah, they've seen some of your stuff, but they're really not engaging, they're not responding, and getting the results that you really would like to see from those, whether it be text messages or email in this day and age?
Sure. I think that if you've got a list and it's not you're not getting out of it what you want or what you feel like you should be getting out of it, there's really some things that are more potential like pitfalls that you may want to look out for first. And the number one thing is deliverability, and that's for me that's what we run into the most is like people that think like my content's just not resonating and like people aren't clicking enough and is they actually have like an issue where their emails just aren't delivering to the primary inbox. They're going to spam, or
Okay.
to a lesser problematic extent, maybe they're in the promotions tab. That's not as easy to fix anymore as it was like a year ago or 2 years
Right.
ago, but it's still better if you can get into the updates tab, which is
Okay.
possible. But anyway, I think that the bigger issue is like Google and Yahoo introduced new sender requirements a few months back. Some people have heard of this. You might have not heard of it, but it's definitely changed things in terms of way more emails are going to spam now. Um, and this is back in I think February they introduced it, and then it got more stringent in April. They're saying it's going to be more stringent in June. It's kind of frustrating because I have emails from colleagues that end up in spam. I'm like, what, why?
Yeah.
But basically, they
Why?
made it way more like easy for your emails to go to spam. So one of the things to do is to check that out and figure out what your inbox placement rates are actually looking like. And I highly recommend using a third party tool to do this. We use Glock apps. There's a bunch of them out there. But basically, it's a diagnostic test that you run where you send out an email to a bunch of, a set list of contacts that the tool gives you. And then it gives you
Okay.
back a report on where your emails are landing. And this will enable you to see, if you're actually hitting the inbox or not, and what percentage of your emails are going to spam. And the thing is, a lot of people are like, well, I've got like a 70% open rate. And the problem is,
Yeah.
open rates are inaccurate now because of something called iOS 15, which is now a few years old or a couple years old. And when that came out, they introduced machine opens to all Apple devices so that you get inflated open rates. So if somebody has an iPhone, which most people do, then
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
email is going to come back, like you're going to see in your ESP, it's going to say an open rate that is totally inaccurate and not, it's totally inflated. And then you wonder, like, why is my open rate so high, but I'm getting like, hardly any clicks? Well, the reason is because you're
Right.
probably not actually getting to the inbox. Um, so there are ways to deal with that. But and we don't have time for that on this podcast. It comes down to like
Sure. Sure.
reputation and kind of warming your email infrastructure, like the emails that you send to people. I would say though, kind of, putting that aside, um, you have to focus on engagement before you focus on sales. So if you are a business
Okay.
that has a list of contacts, you're emailing them, you're not getting great results. The first thing you need to do is get engagement from that list, and this can
Okay.
be done in several different ways. But yeah, at its core, um, you want to put yourself in the shoes of the person on the list who signed up for the list, and think to yourself, like, what would make me engage? What would I find valuable? And send more of that. One of the other
Okay.
keys to this is showing up. So like if you are only sending an email like really inconsistently, once every few weeks or once a month or whatever, um, you are never going to get good engagement, because this goes back to sort of what we were saying earlier about um, you know inboxes being crowded. That's true, they are.
Right.
If you want to get seen, you have to sort of cut through that noise, and you have to stand out. And people, they also gain a certain familiarity if you're showing up. So you do need to show up. And
Okay.
so yeah, the good news is this can be as easy as figuring out a way for you to send relevant emails a couple times a week that are entering the conversation that's going on in their heads, talking about the pain points, the things that they did join the list for, the reason, think about why they're there, why they got on the list. And yeah, being more conversational and asking for replies is really a great
Sure.
first step. And this goes for whatever type of business you have, whether it's a service business or whether you're selling, shirts or something. It doesn't really matter. Like if you are selling all the time, but it's not working, you're not getting response, you need to
Right.
take a step back, focus on getting the list engaged. And so one of the best ways to do that is to talk to them and ask them questions. And you can start by
Okay.
asking them why they're there, asking them what they want to see more of, what do they want to learn. And so this is something like I do with my email list once every like 3 months or so, just to kind of check in and make sure like what I'm sending is resonating with them. And I've had people give me like really great ideas, like things I hadn't thought of, that they would come back and be like, hey, if you could do a breakdown of like pull up some emails in your inbox and do like a breakdown of strategies that are working and not working based on what you see, that would be really helpful. And I hadn't
Okay.
thought of that. So like that's something I've implemented. So like things
Nice.
like that, I think are really important to get engagement. And one quick tip I'll give to end this little part off is just, if you
Yeah.
need to revive your list, you feel like it's really not good, you're not getting good responses, I would advise, after you check on deliverability and you look into that and make sure that you're not just going to spam, if you are inboxing,
Right.
send an email where you just basically say, hey, uh, you know, you may have not heard from me in a little while, but you're on this list because, remind them why they signed up, or remind them what got
Okay.
them on the list, and say, hey, I just want to know if you still want these emails. If not, here's a link to unsubscribe. Give them the unsubscribe link, and then just, you're basically asking them like, are you still there? Are you still with us?
Right.
And it's
Right.
better to have people unsubscribe than to sit there and not engage with your emails, because that, hurts your reputation with the inbox
Okay.
providers worse than, it's
Okay.
better to just have people raise their hand and unsubscribe if they're going to do that.
Yeah.
And you will get people responding back being like, yeah, I'm still here, and then you're good to go. But that's like a
Okay.
reliable.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, and I think the fears are some of the stuff that we just got to get out of our head. I mean, you got to have a plan, but just the frequency, staying consistent. That's what marketing is all about, right? Staying there. I mean, I don't know how many times I talk to, whether it be car dealers, roofers, construction. It's so much about timing, right? Not everyone's sitting around saying, shit, I need a new roof right now. It's when there's a problem that happens. So staying top of mind, staying out there in front of them.
Right.
So don't fear the consistency. Don't fear people unsubscribing because those are probably not the best fit for you. You provided an awesome amount of nuggets here. I've just got one more. If there's any last
Sure.
minute golden nuggets that you want to talk about regarding email, what would be your last bonus nugget that you want to provide our audience today?
So I think like the hardest thing a lot of times for people is just getting started, or
Okay.
getting back into sending email, because they sort of, it's not something that they do a lot. It's not something they really enjoy doing, and it always kind of gets pushed to the back burner, right? Because there's other things that are more important. So what I would advise is, number one, have a good strategy for collecting emails from your website. At a minimum,
Mm-hmm.
have a pop up, something that comes up at some point. Don't make it come up the second they get on your website.
Sure.
But once they've been on your site, something that pops up gives them the opportunity to enter their email in exchange for something, whether that be
Okay.
information, whether that be a video, whether that be, a discount. Uh, collect emails. That's number one. Because if you're not collecting
Okay.
emails, you are losing money every single day,
Yeah.
because you've got visitors coming to your
100%.
website and you're losing them because they're never coming back. Get their emails voluntarily from as many people as you possibly can. Secondly, is this has worked for me at times where I've sort of like let my email list go a little bit because I've just been too busy with other people's email lists,
Right.
and what we do with the agency. What I've done is I've set aside. Usually, I do this over like 2 days. Like a 3 hour block twice, like 2 days, where I'll plan this in, where I'm going to sit down, open up a Google Doc, and write as many emails as I can. And usually
Okay.
before I do this, just throughout my day, I do this for about a week. I will just have a note in my phone where I will just write down random email topics that I can write about. And they can be
Okay.
super short. They can just be things that come up, and no matter what business you have, this happens to you. Like, things will come up throughout the business, whether you're talking to a prospect, or you're talking to a client or a customer, or what have you, where you'll think to yourself, hey, that's like a good piece of advice I can give on that. Write that down in a note. And then when you sit down with this 2-3 hour block, write as many different emails as you can. And I recommend keeping them pretty short, like 100 words or less, about this
Okay.
topic. And then what you end up with is a Google Doc with ideally, maybe 10 to 15 emails in it over the course of a day or two. And then what you can do is get ahead to where you kind of schedule them out to go. If you're not a business that sends a lot of email, you can do 2 emails a week or something. And that's how you sort of get ahead of it. And then as the process starts going, you will see results and feel, you'll get motivation to continue writing emails. And then it does become
Okay.
a little bit more effortless. A good friend of
Right.
mine did a challenge with herself where she wrote an email to her list every day for 100 days. And
Wow.
that worked really well for her. That's not my style personally, because there's some days when I feel like I can write an email and other days I just don't. Like, I don't have time, or I'm just like not into doing that. But that's something you can do too, is even just 10 days. Challenge yourself. I'm going to write an email a day for 10 days. And you
Nice.
set aside a block to do it. But it's really about just sitting down, figuring out, again, asking yourself, what did they sign up for? what are their pain points? What are they going through? Why are they here? And then what can I provide? What value can I give them? And this is how you can get engagement. Now, selling through email is second. It comes after that, and it's a different podcast
Right.
at this point. But you got to get the
Okay.
engagement first. And the problem most people have is that their list just isn't engaged.
I think this is freaking awesome. I think the fact that email is still very much alive, direct mail is still very much alive, and I would say if you're doing it right, it could be even way more effective than social media marketing, organic social media. I mean, everyone's trying to figure that out and be the next Gary Vee. It's just not that easy. So the fact that you have a captive list, the fact that you have captive mailing lists, those two things combined can be extremely powerful. So awesome nuggets. I think there's a lot that anyone out there listening can take and put right into their business today. Start setting some goals, doing what was just talked about by Josh here as far as setting some time aside to really map out that plan, put your ideas together, and get as much content as possible. You've been cool enough. I know you've got an awesome email newsletter. So where can people get that?
Yeah, pretty simple. Go to email123.club and sign up. It's called the Email Revolution newsletter. And the goal is to really just give people an edge in their marketplace by giving them tips and ideas and strategies to use, based around direct response email marketing. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback on just, the types of advice we give through this newsletter. So yeah, definitely recommend it if you have any type of business at all. It's definitely a good resource.
That's awesome. Well, great to have you here. Is there anything else? Do you want to give your email out or anything else that you want to tell our guests here today?
Yeah, I mean, if you are an e-commerce business owner, and you've got, where you sell physical products online, definitely check out our website, theemailagency.com. One thing about us is we have a lot of, even though we have sort of a limited service when it comes to our done for you, like full service email marketing, we also do consulting, and we also have a community of email marketers and marketing team members of different businesses that are in that community learning email marketing from us. So there's a lot of cool things that we can do, to help you if you're an e-commerce business. So definitely that would be the other thing is feel free to check out our website at theemailagency.com, and you can get a free audit of email account in there, which I highly recommend.
Oh, nice. Okay, very cool. Well, go out there, get over to sign up to Josh's newsletter. Super insightful. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, that's another awesome DMC marketing nugget in the books. So go ahead and hit that like and follow button. Listen to us on your favorite streaming app and visit dmcmarketingnugget.com to watch all of our past shows. Josh, thank you so much, man. Here's to your success.
Thank you.